Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Joshua Barnes, coming to you live from the Firstpost studios. First, let's take a look at the headlines. China welcomes India's easing of business visa restrictions for Chinese professionals, lauding it as a positive step to boost economic ties and people-to-people exchanges. Germany says it has identified 2 Russian cyber operations targeting air traffic control and February's general election, adding that the Russian ambassador has been summoned. Thailand's Prime Minister dissolves parliament 3 months after assuming office, paving the way for general elections early next year. He says House dissolution won't affect the border conflict with Cambodia. Gold prices surged to a near 7-week high, finishing the week around 2% higher over the US Federal Reserve's interest rate cuts and expectations of more cuts next year. And the UK is facing an unprecedented wave of superflu, a health chief warns, as the health minister urged doctors to call off a threatened 5-day strike ahead of Christmas. Hello and welcome. We begin with US President Donald Trump's continued anti-Somalia campaign. His racist comments have sparked outrage among Somalis across the world. The latest reaction has come from the Somali Defence Minister, reacting to Trump's repeated attacks against the country. The minister said that the US president should focus on fulfilling his pledges to American voters rather than busying himself with Somalia. In his statement, the defense minister thanked the US for its military support in the fight against al-Qaeda-linked terrorists, but he rejected Trump's characterization of Somalis.
The Somali people are known around the world for their hard work. They are known for their resilience in the face of adversity. They have faced hardships and many enemies, including those who deny their existence, kill them, humiliate, and insult them. They have overcome all of them and have survived.
Trump launched his latest attack on Somalis on Tuesday. He was speaking at a rally in Pennsylvania. His speech was supposed to focus on combating inflation, but Trump instead used it to denounce migration from third world countries. He called places like Somalia a disaster and openly expressed his desire to have more migrants from white countries.
People from Norway, Sweden, just a few. Let us have a few. From Denmark, do you mind sending us a few people? Send us some nice people, do you mind? But we always take people from Somalia, places that are a disaster, right? Filthy, dirty, disgusting, ridden with crime.
Trump also said that the only thing Somalis were good at doing was going after ships. He was referencing the piracy off Somali coasts. In his speech, the US president also boasted about using a racial slur to berate Haiti and African nations during a 2018 meeting. At the time, he denied using the language and faced backlash for his racist remarks. Last week, Trump described Somalis as garbage at a cabinet meeting, saying they just run around killing each other. The US president has repeatedly called for the deportation of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who immigrated from Somalia. Omar is a Democratic member of Congress and a vocal Trump critic. Trump stepped up attacks on Somalis after the shooting of 2 National Guard troops in Washington last month. The incident further fueled his administration's anti-immigration sentiment. Following the shooting, Trump vowed to freeze migration from poorer countries, including Somalia. Minnesota's Somali community, the largest in the United States, has been on edge the past couple of weeks since Trump said in a social media post that he was terminating temporary protected status for them. Earlier this week, protesters clashed with immigration and customs enforcement officers in a Minneapolis neighborhood home to many Somali residents. In response, the federal agents used pepper spray on protesters who blocked their vehicles and left the area. Donald Trump's crackdown on the Somali community has drawn backlash from both local authorities and other countries. However, the outrage doesn't seem to bother the US president, whose comments have triggered chaos. And for more on this, we have with us Wara Okonkwo, a political analyst joining us live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Welcome to Firstpost Africa.
Thank you.
Maura, what is Trump trying to achieve with his rhetoric against Somalian people, who are not just in America, but also globally?
Well, to be honest, I really don't know politically what the motivation is. But for me, his statement is highly offensive, and it can trigger a lot of unsafe for the Somali people in America. So if his plan is in line with making sure that he mobilizes his base of support known as Make America Great, then he's doing it. But for you to openly criticize a nation that has sovereignty, that has met the criteria of immigration to stay in your country without justifiable cause, is pathetic. So I would actually suggest that he tries as much as possible the Trump presidency to maintain and fulfill the voters' mandate that brought him to power. Because I really, since the inception of America, I don't think I've seen any president that has spoken out so negatively against immigrants.
Maura, does the response from the Somalian government go far enough in the face of Trump's rhetoric?
Well, it is only a tree that you tell you are coming to kill it that stays. So the best Somali government can do is to hit back. However, hitting back at such a superpower to them might not have any serious impact. And if you look at the President Trump statements of deportation of Ilhan Omar, the Congresswoman, who is a sharp critic of his comments. But the point is that he cannot do that because Omar is properly documented as a citizen of America and does not like the hostility in terms of statement made against the Somali people. So for me, if I'm to say if the response from Somali government go far enough, yeah, to an extent, no. They are just voicing out their dissatisfaction with the president's comments against their country. That's the best they can do. But would they have any impact in stopping him from pronouncing further or tightening immigration laws? No. The only person that can help them frustrate such efforts is the Congresswoman from Somalia, who is a naturalized citizen. So for me, I will say that the response from the Somalian government will not be able to go far enough.
And finally, Maura, do you think that Trump is just racist, or could this attack against Somalis have a political agenda, potentially looking towards foreign policy and immigration, something we know Trump has been very strong on?
Yeah, I will say it points to both interpretations from the above in terms of your question. And it also has serious political undertone, where Trump's statements are a calculated political strategy designed to mobilize his base on support known as Make America Great Again. So based from those points of view, you can see it's politically motivated, and he's giving the supporters that he wants America to be great again and do not need immigrants such as Haiti, Somalia, and other African nations in their country. But at the same time, you can't do without immigrants. Once immigrants meet the criteria to be naturalized or to stay in your country, unfortunately, you cannot do anything to kick them out. However, if an immigrant goes against the law is there to, take their fall on such individual. So for me, I would say, I will possibly say that it's a calculated political strategy from President Trump.
So much to keep monitoring in this story. Maura Okonkwo, thank you ever so much for joining us and providing insight.
Thank you.
Next, we shift focus to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where Rwandan-backed M23 rebels have consolidated control of the key city of Ariva. As bodies are collected from the city's streets, with harrowing stories told by those who fled the violence. Despite international condemnation from the US and European powers, the rebels have strengthened their position in Uvira, with deadly consequences.
Yesterday we collected at least 9 bodies, and today 2 on the avenue leading to St. Paul's Cathedral.
Power cuts, shop closures and empty streets have followed the M23 assault. Hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced from the wider South Kivu province since December the 2nd. Tens of thousands have fled into the neighbouring nation of Burundi, who have supported DRC in their fight against M23. Their stories paint a picture of the devastation left by warfare in Uvira and the wider South Kivu region.
Before fleeing, there was a lot of gunfire, many people died. Those of us who were able to escape fled here to Burundi.
We fled the fighting and left everything behind. Even the children are missing. All the neighbors were killed by bombs, all the houses are burned, and we arrived without even clothes.
Since I fled, I have not known where my husband is. We lost each other when we were forced to abandon our home in the chaos, and I have not seen him since leaving Sange.
Regional officials say that more than 400 people have been killed in South Kivu since the recent rebel escalation. And the capture and consolidation of Uvira, a key trading hub for DRC, marks a major blow to peace efforts. After months of discussions and US mediation efforts, a ceasefire was signed between DRC and Rwanda in Washington. President Donald Trump said the deal was a great miracle.
I think you're going to see very quickly, I think you're going to see things happen. This is something that was not doable, according to a lot of people, and not only is it doable, I think it's going to be a great miracle.
Separate bilateral agreements were penned by the US with both DR Congo and Rwanda to access rare earths in the mineral-rich region. But less than a week later, the US peace deal is hanging by a thread. Both sides have accused the other of ceasefire violations as the fighting continues. Those who have survived are calling for more to be done globally.
The international community must help the Congo to restore lasting peace. They must find a way to drive out the AFC/M23 rebels so that we Congolese can also find peace, like other countries.
So what does come next from the international community, and specifically Donald Trump, the leader who counted this conflict in a list of wars he claims to have ended? But it hasn't ended, and civilians in South Kivu are living through the horrors of a conflict that has raged for decades. We will keep monitoring the developments in this story and bring you all of the updates. From the conflict in DRC, let's turn our attention to the war in Sudan. The conflict between the Sudanese army and paramilitaries is raging on, and it's the latest epicenter in an oil field. We are talking about the Heglig oil field in Sudan's Kordofan. It lies near the border with South Sudan. Earlier this week, the Sudanese paramilitary RSF took control of the strategic oil field, forcing the Sudanese soldiers and oil workers to flee the area. Following the capture of the Heglig oil field, South Sudan has now announced a deal with Sudan's warring sides. The South Sudanese military has sent its troops to guard the oil field after a tripartite agreement was reached between South Sudan's President Salva Kiir, Sudan Army Chief General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and RSF head Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo. The military also said that the Sudanese forces and RSF would withdraw, leaving South Sudanese troops in charge of the area. The South Sudanese military added that Sudanese troops that had surrendered to them after fleeing Heglig were safe and will soon be taken back to their country. Juba said that the deal was important to avoid the destruction of the strategic oil field. Just a day after the RSF captured the oil field, the Sudanese armed forces carried out a drone strike near the area, killing dozens of people. Thousands of civilians from Sudan have also crossed the border into South Sudan to escape this fighting. The capture of Heglig has been a big blow to both Sudan and South Sudan. This is because the site is critical for Sudan's foreign exchange earnings, and it houses the main processing facility for South Sudanese oil, which makes up the bulk of the country's public revenues. Landlocked South Sudan relies entirely on Sudanese pipelines to export its oil and has seen production repeatedly disrupted by this conflict, worsening its economic crisis. Heglig's capture is the latest in a string of RSF territorial gains. This includes the October fall of North Darfur's capital El Fasher and the Sudanese army's last stronghold in Darfur. The war between the Sudanese army and paramilitary began in April 2023. It has killed tens of thousands of people, displaced around 12 million and triggered multiple famines. Both sides face allegations of atrocities. Despite a truce deal proposed by the US, Egypt, Saudi Arabia and the UAE, peace remains elusive in Sudan. The conflict is also worsening its neighbour, South Sudan's economic crisis. Will the latest agreement between South Sudan, the Sudanese army and the paramilitary hold? And we end the show with a tit-for-tat diplomacy move from Ghana. The country has deported 3 Israeli nationals who landed in Accra on Wednesday. They say they've been compelled to retaliate over what Israel started. Ghanaian authorities have stated this move is a direct response to the alleged mistreatment of Ghanaian travellers in Tel Aviv. Earlier this month, 7 Ghanaians were detained at Israel's Ben Gurion airport. 4 of them were staff from the parliamentary service attending a cybersecurity conference. Accra says their citizens were held for 5 hours without a justifiable explanation. 3 of them were deported, while the rest were released after intense diplomatic pressure. Ghana's foreign minister called the treatment humiliating. He also summoned Israeli embassy officials in Accra and demanded respect for their citizens. His directive was plain and simple: 1 Israeli for every Ghanaian sent back.
The Israeli authorities have now apologized for the action they carried out and have called for de-escalation because we made it clear that if they deported 10 Ghanaians, we will deport 10, 20 will deport 20, 50 will deport 50. We are not going to accept this.
And according to Ghana, the row was linked to Israeli accusations that it wasn't cooperating over deportation procedures. Earlier this year, Israel blamed Ghana's Tel Aviv embassy for not cooperating on 6 deportations. 1 involved a Gabonese national, another was too sick to travel. Ghana rejects that entirely. Their embassy insists it follows international law completely. The tensions also come against the backdrop of Accra's outspoken stance on the Israel-Hamas conflict. The West African nation has always maintained support for a 2-state solution. Earlier in the year, Ghana urged Israel to allow more humanitarian aid into Gaza, referring to the reported civilian suffering as heartbreaking. The president also donated 40 tons of Ghana-made cocoa products to Palestine. Accra has also condemned Israeli strikes on Qatar in September as a clear violation of international law. In 2023, the acting Ghanaian president also urged the world to intervene in the Israel-Hamas conflict.
There's clearly a need for us, all of us, the international community, the global community, to look beyond the immediate issues of the consequences of the Hamas attacks on Israel, to be looking at the possibility of a comprehensive settlement of this matter.
Voices from inside the West African nation echo the diplomatic strain as well. Several pro-Palestine protests across the country are calling out the humanitarian crisis in the region.
We cannot sit back and see children being killed, women and children, innocent civilians, irrespective of where they come from, what their religion is, what their race is. So this must stop. We want to add our voices to all those who are saying there is a humanitarian crisis that needs urgent attention.
But Ghana and Israel were not always at odds. The diplomatic ties have history. Ghana was the first sub-Saharan African country to recognize Israel in 1958. Their relation focused on cooperation in agriculture, security, and aviation. In 2021, the Israeli government also invested $140 million in the West African nation, focusing on developing infrastructure and building an AI research institute. For now, both governments say they want to maintain ties, but as 2 nations navigate their diplomatic row, caught in the middle are ordinary citizens, treated like pieces on the chessboard of geopolitics. Well, that's all we have on the show for today. We will see you again next week at the same time. Until then, thank you for watching.